All right, well, hello everyone and welcome back to Monday's version of Before the Four. It's digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back this fine Monday afternoon. I hope you all had a fabulous Easter weekend. I certainly know I did. Yesterday I went and saw HCFC play. They got the shutout win, beating the Chicago Fire 5-0. And on Saturday, if you guys were up in Fayetteville, Tennessee, I competed in the Slaw Burger Festival eating competition. I only was able to down 8 burgers in 10 minutes, so I did not get the win that I was shooting for, but it was such a great time. Fayetteville, such a beautiful city. If you haven't gone up there to check it out, I definitely recommend. It is a great city to hang out, beautiful downtown area, and those slaw burgers were good. Let me tell you, that was a good lunch. But anyway, I digress. Happy Monday again, wherever you're watching Before the Four this fine Monday afternoon, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream. As always, thank you so much for watching and spending just a bit of your Monday afternoon here. Now it is time we talk about some news. So now jumping into our top news stories, let's begin this afternoon in Huntsville, where the NAACP, along with the family of missing Huntsville realtor Ronald DeMaw Jr., held a press conference urging anyone worldwide who knows or has any details on DeMaw's whereabouts to come forward. Now we heard for the first time from DeMaw Sr., his father, as well as his aunt Michelle DeMaw. Huntsville-Madison NAACP President Christian Williams-Brown, Bernard Sembleton, and Jasmine DeLoach of Founders Angels Arms was also there and further reiterated their support of working with Huntsville police to help bring him home. And now, tonight at 7 at the Hope Community Church here in Huntsville, the family will be holding a vigil for DeMaw. So stay tuned for our 10 o'clock newscast for more on tonight's vigil from our own Nick Ballinger. But now moving over to Morgan County, where earlier today we learned that a murder suspect was denied immunity. Now, Bobby Hamblin, who you see on screen, claims self-defense in connection to the 2020 shooting death of his roommate, David McCluskey. Hamblin was arrested after McCluskey's body was found floating in the Tennessee River. Hamblin will head to trial in August. But now it is time we turn over to the weather. The threat of rain does look like it's lingering for most of this week, but we have 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis with details on what to expect heading down the line. Brad?
Well, scattered showers, just general thunderstorms out there. We've been seeing it on and off throughout the day. We'll see more of it throughout the week. No severe weather, but some locally heavy rain, occasional lightning that picks up. Quick look at radar there. Temperatures have cooled off where we have had the rain. That frontal boundary's actually started to move through too. And you can see 81 near Scottsboro. I think that's a little abnormal, but it is 77 down there in Albertville, so don't be surprised to see those 70s change to 60s as we go through the evening. Just cloudy over there in Guntersville. We've got poor visibility in places too. Over the next 12 hours, periods of showers and thunderstorms will continue. Not a lot of wind except where we get some thunderstorms, and those wind gusts may be around 30 miles per hour or so. Haven't had a whole lot of wind reports today, by the way. 76 tomorrow over the next 3 days. More showers and storms. A little warmer Wednesday, and I think we may get a slight break there, but Thursday into Friday, more showers and storms. We'll be talking more about this at 4, 5, 6, and 10 on WAFF 48.
And now turning over to our top story today in national news. Pope Francis has died following a battle with pneumonia at age 88. Now, the Vatican this afternoon revealing a stroke was the cause of his death. The Pope, born in Argentina, was known as being the first Pope from the Americas. He served from March of 2013 until his death. WAFF's senior national correspondent, Deborah Alfarone, has a look at his life and legacy.
Pope Francis represented a new kind of pope when he was elected. It was February 2013 when then Pope Benedict XVI retired. A papal conclave selected the man born Jorge Mario Bergoglio to replace him, becoming the first Jesuit, the first pope from the Americas, and the first non-European pope in more than 1,000 years. Bergoglio chose his papal name in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi, who lived a life of humble service to the poor. Pope Francis was born in 1936 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, to an Italian immigrant dad and mom also of Italian descent born in Buenos Aires too. At age 21, he fell severely sick with pneumonia and had to have his right lung partially removed. He later became inspired to join the Jesuits in 1958. Was ordained a Catholic priest in 1969, and was eventually created a cardinal by Pope John Paul II. Pope Francis became known as the People's Pope. He consistently urged people to recognize the humanity of immigrants and often talked about climate change. Early on, he signaled a more welcoming approach to LGBTQ+ Catholics. When asked about homosexuality in his first news conference as Pope, he famously asked, "Who am I to judge?" In 2015, Pope Francis visited Washington, D.C. as part of a 6-day tour of the U.S. President Obama at the time welcomed him at the White House, and the Pope addressed a joint session of Congress here before leaving to go to New York. The Speaker of the House at the time, John Boehner, a Catholic from Ohio, said this was the highlight of his entire speakership. There have been many notable moments in Francis's papacy. His tenure coincided with increased revelations about the scale of clerical abuse. Pope Francis held a major abuse-related summit at the Vatican, but has also been criticized for the Church not being more transparent. He is credited with promoting women to senior roles within the Church, but critics called the pace of change slow. Pope Francis returned repeatedly to the Americas, visiting Cuba, Canada, Panama, Chile, and Peru. He became the first pontiff to visit the United Arab Emirates. He also became the first pope to live stream morning mass during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Bless you all.
Pope Francis welcomed American presidents to the Vatican, meeting with Donald Trump in May 2017 and Joe Biden during the G7 summit in Italy in June 2024. Months before his death, then-President Joe Biden awarded Pope Francis the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the United States' highest civilian honor. Francis served as the 266th pope in the history of the Catholic Church. In Washington, D.C., I'm Deborah Alfarone.
And he will be greatly missed. And of course, today, 48's Callie Neese is speaking with a group of local Catholics here in the Tennessee Valley on the death of the Pope earlier today. She'll have more coming up in our evening newscast. But now, turning over to a story in case you missed it out of Decatur. Now, on Friday, Decatur police released body cam footage from an arrest last week that stirred up a bit of controversy in the Decatur community. Decatur police have since released new details telling their side of the story on that arrest. Take a look.
Decatur police released 28 minutes of body cam footage on Friday showing their arrest of John Scott Jr. In the video, they speak with him for about 10 minutes before things get physical. When Scott couldn't decide whether to go to the hospital for his mental condition or to go with police for not paying a speeding ticket, the officers attempted to restrain him.
My neck! John! Sorry! Turn over! Police!
Then, the officers started tasing Scott, with his mother's reaction going viral.
Stop punching him!
This was the second encounter between police and Scott on that day. A few hours before this, Scott's mother called police, saying he was having a mental breakdown. An officer spoke with her and Scott for about an hour. Today, Interim Chief Natus Carlisle revealed that officers relayed information to the city's mental health liaison. The officer and the liaison came to the conclusion that Scott wasn't a danger to himself or others, and he could not be involuntarily committed. Police say they believe his behavior was caused by drugs. After Scott was arrested, Chief Carlisle says he was not complying with the officers and soon showed signs of medical distress in the jail. He was rushed to the Decatur Hospital, then Huntsville Hospital. Scott's mother says he is now in a coma. Carlisle says police believe the cause may be excited delirium syndrome. Carlisle called it a life-threatening state of agitation brought on by mental health problems and drug use. However, it's important to note that the World Health Organization, American Medical Association, and American Psychiatric Association all refuse to recognize excited delirium syndrome. The term is even banned from police reports in California.
And of course, 48's Faith Delp will be continuing to follow up on this situation out of Decatur coming up in our evening newscast. So make sure to stick around for any updates she might have. But staying in Decatur, the Decatur City Council approved moving the process forward with Tory Mack, that's who you see on screen, as its next police chief. All 4 city councilmen at this morning's meeting gave the HR director their okay to move forward. Now, this all comes a week after Mack interviewed with the council. He's so far the only candidate to be interviewed for the job. Mack currently works as a police captain in Birmingham, where he supervises 84 different officers. But now we're going to go to break, but coming up after the break, we have scams to keep an eye out on. That is in the case you are getting a star ID. A group pushing for recent college grads here in the state of Alabama to stay here in the Yellowhammer. We'll talk about all that. And 75 years of playing the organ in one church. You're just not going to want to miss it. We'll go through it all in 1 minute. All right, my time is up. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Before the 4. Well, time is ticking to get that updated star ID for domestic travel on airlines and for entering into federal buildings. But it's also important to stay alert for any potential scams going on that could target those looking to get their star ID. Noah Cowell reports on some of the scams that could be coming for you. Take a look.
Big lines have taken over at driver's license offices here in Huntsville the past couple weeks as people try to beat the May 7th deadline. To get the ID, you need proof of your date of birth, social security card, and proof of residence here in Alabama. These lines were something Angela Galatano didn't have to worry about 3 years ago when she got ahead of the curve. Galatano urges people to take this deadline seriously and to be prepared.
Print out the list of the documents that you need before you even get in the car. Triple check that you have everything. Oftentimes you'll get there. I see people get to the front of the line and then they're like, oh, I don't have what I need. So make sure that you have everything. And then also call the local spot that you're going to and ask them the best time to come. That's another good tip no one tells you about, is just check with the local people at the station and figure out, hey, when is it the slowest, and plan to be there.
Carl Bates with Better Business Bureau says scammers are taking advantage of people who need star IDs. They're posing as DMV workers, promising to let people cut the line if they give them information over the phone or online.
They want your social security card, your passport, anything they can get, your credit card. And that's really the fish in this deal. You're not going to get a star ID from them because that's not how it works. You have to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get it.
And another woman who got her new ID a year ago urges people to make the trip in person.
Don't fall for scams. If you need to go get it, I would go to the DMV and personally bring all your information up there to get that. Don't go through a text or email. Just go up there in person if you have the time to get it taken care of.
Well, certainly good to know. And now in a bit of state news, Alabama is home to dozens of universities that produce thousands of graduates each year. But oftentimes, students leave the state of Alabama to pursue their professional career and leaving the state that educated them behind. The Student Retention Council, however, wants to limit that when possible. Simon Schuessler with WSFA reports on that council.
This group of students are the select few chosen to serve on Alabama's Student Retention Council. They believe graduates don't need to look elsewhere to follow their dreams and accomplish their goals.
And Alabama has such a great quality of life and low cost of living with ample career opportunity for advancement that we think that if students were just made more aware of these things, they would realize that all their dreams and goals that they have in mind can really be accomplished here in Alabama and make a really big impact on our state.
The council stopped in Montgomery to speak with legislators and other state officials about the challenges of retention and how to address them.
And I was able to speak to Senator Orr, and it was just an amazing experience to see how active he wanted to be in our process. Hearing us out, listening to our concerns, but also trying to set those in motion in the future.
Alabama is traditionally known for its agricultural and manufacturing industries, but many of those jobs don't require a college degree. The council wants to change that narrative by continuing to build and promote a more diverse economy.
With a little bit of help in the kinds of jobs we have and marketing this, we believe we can continuously grow our state, not just in the manufacturing sector, which is great, but also in that knowledge-based, higher tech, entrepreneurial, and innovative sector.
Council members also surveyed fellow students to see what is important to them when considering their future career destination. They found 4 key interest areas: opportunities, quality of life, affordability, and a sense of belonging. Simon Schuessler, WSFA 12 News, Montgomery.
And now in a bit of Tennessee news, the Tennessee Attorney General is making new moves after an organ transplant foundation suddenly shut down, leaving patients struggling to pay their bills. The question now, where did that money go? NBC News reports.
Tonight, 1 year after its sudden closure, the National Foundation for Transplants is facing a lawsuit from the Tennessee Attorney General's office.
The National Foundation for Transplants can't get its story straight.
The National Foundation for Transplants.
For decades, the Memphis-based charity provided a fundraising platform for organ transplant patients. But last year, NFT abruptly shut down, and many patients and donors say the money they raised was gone. AG Jonathan Scrametti's office says it received 47 complaints that NFT represented donations would be earmarked for specific transplant patients.
There are real concerns about misrepresentations being made to raise money.
Concerns about fraud?
Yes.
It's an issue of life and death for people like Kathy Ernest, a double lung transplant recipient we met last year.
I couldn't walk from here to there without gasping for air.
The roughly $13,000 she says she raised through NFT is now gone, but she still has medical bills.
Did it alter anything about how you had to live?
I had to change my eating habits, like when I was going out to eat. So it's like, yeah, no, I got to pay this bill.
In a statement to NBC News, NFT states they were surprised by the lawsuit and significantly disagrees that it was engaged in any fraud or misrepresentation in terms of its fundraising and use of funds, adding that the organization disputes any wrongdoing but plans to hopefully work with the Attorney General on a reasonable dissolution of the company. Announcing the lawsuit, the Tennessee AG says it wants government supervision over the dissolution and dispersal of any remaining assets.
There's a discrepancy between representations that were made to donors and patients that funds were going to be raised for specific patients, and representations that have since been made that there's just one big pool of money, which is substantially smaller than the amount raised.
Money Kathy worries she and others may never see.
Whether it was 2,000 or 20,000, I feel bad that that was taken from them.
Zinclair Samoa, NBC News.
Now in today's good side, Jody Kurtzman introduces us to Jean Lang. She's been a church organist for 75 years. Take a listen.
This church is pretty special to Marv Lang. He was on the committee to build this church in the late 1950s.
It's just special. All my kids were baptized and confirmed here and everything, so it holds a lot of precious memories.
The most precious part, he says, is the church organist.
One favorite part, it would be her and the organ.
His wife, Jean, has been the organist here since the church opened.
So I've done this for a long time.
Jean first learned to play the organ at age 10.
I enjoy it.
Which means she's been playing for church for 75 years.
I've played for services, for funerals, for weddings, whatever. I mean, it's just been a part of my life.
Jean has been the one constant at Trinity Lutheran since it opened.
You feel you belong here. It is your church. You need to keep it going.
She plays every Sunday and even chooses the weekly hymns. Jean says it's important to stay busy.
We've always been busy.
She doesn't have any plans to stop playing anytime soon.
It's needed.
And that is music to the ears of everyone lucky enough to hear Jean play. In Napoleon, I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your news leader.
Such beautiful music there in 75 years. That is quite a run, but that is so awesome for Miss Jean there. But now let's head into the stories that you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscasts. Internet in the Shoals. 48's Aria Pons with the latest on fiber wires coming up. Another story you're just not going to want to miss. Upgrades coming to one public park in Scottsboro. 48 Savannah Sap will have more on that. And finally, a Tennessee Valley High School taking home first place for Technology Student Association's Most Outstanding School. Find out where coming up in our evening newscast. And these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up. And I think it is about that time. You all know what time it is, of course, and it is time for Facebook fun. That is right. Our 48 Facebook question of the day: what is a monthly subscription that you have no issues paying for? And mine is without a doubt Apple Music. I think that is, I'm not using Spotify. If I do use Spotify, I'm not paying the subscription for it. I just have the Spotify Lite version. But I do use Apple Music quite religiously. That is kind of my go-to for music streaming. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Apple Music. I know it's either you're a Spotify guy or you're an Apple person. Mine is without a doubt Apple. But let's see what you all had to say. David Beth, me and David are on the same page. We are both Apple Music. That is a subscription I can do without. Lori Manning, she has no subscriptions, so that means Lori is free. Absolutely. That is, I think, what we're all aspiring to be at the end of the day. Tanya said Spotify. Okay, so Tanya is a Spotify gal. Nothing wrong with that. Ashley said DoorDash. Hey, there is absolutely nothing wrong with DoorDash, Uber Eats, all that good stuff when you don't feel like cooking or going out to the groceries. It's always a go-to. Becky says Sirius Radio, Sirius XM. Gotta love it. Shannon, 100%. That is another subscription I have that I cannot get rid of, is my gym membership. It is what keeps me sane. That is probably my most beneficial subscription, without a doubt. Melanie said Walmart Plus, and we actually had a few Walmart Pluses in the comments. We have us a reader, Whitney. She said Kindle Unlimited. Cannot go wrong with that. Readers are leaders, without a doubt. Danny said PlayStation Plus. That is a good one. Quite a variety of comments that we are getting today. YouTube Premium. Grant, I'm assuming you are watching on YouTube. Hi, how are you, Grant? Hope everything is great and we are back to the top. But quite a bit of a diversity in different subscriptions that you all have here across the valley. Thank you all for commenting on today's Facebook question of the day. Not seeing anything right now on our stream, on our comments, but thank you all for commenting, and that is just about it I have for today's Before the Four. Thank you all for sticking around and spending a bit of your Monday afternoon here. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 Digital app, the 48 First Alert Weather app, and the 48 Sports Zone app. Turn on those push notifications and you will never miss a breaking news story. With that said, that's all I got, but I hope you all have a great night.